Jeremy Sports Network coming to you live. Hey, you guys, we here. We finna go ahead and hop up on what happened to Demarcus Cousins getting traded to New Orleans. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about that boy Jimmy Butler. Is he gonna go to Boston, Minnesota? We don't know. And what's gonna happen with Carmelo Anthony? Is Melo still gonna remain in New York? Do you think Cleveland can go ahead and make a deal happen? We don't know, but we finna tune in right now to Jeremy Sports Network. We finna go live right now. I got my boy Marty on the line. Marty, what's going on?
Nothing much.
All right, man. So let's go ahead and get straight into it, man. With this Demarcus Cousins move to New Orleans. I mean, did it catch you by surprise?
It caught me by surprise. Definitely watching some of the game last night, and that comes on the bottom of the ticker at the end of the game. It caught me way off surprise, especially where he's going.
So with him going to New Orleans with Anthony Davis, and by far, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Anthony Davis for dropping 52 points last night in the All-Star game as the West tops the East 192-82. Big shouts out to Anthony Davis for beating Wilt Chamberlain's record. Give him a huge standing ovation for what it was he did on last night. He had a great performance, man, and it's something else I want to get into later on in the show about the All-Star game. But right now, this move to Demarcus Cousins going to New Orleans, man, I'm really sitting here trying to figure out what the heck happened. Seriously, because like last night, I'm sitting down and I'm a Los Angeles Lakers fan, and so when I heard that LA was asked to be involved in trade talks with Sacramento, I'm thinking there ain't nobody on Sacramento's squad that we need to be worried about getting right now. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, there's nobody, right? So then I hear this news that Demarcus Cousins end up going to New Orleans, and that the Lakers ended up declining the trade because they wanted Brandon Ingram to be involved in this trade. And I'm like, oh man, they done lost their doggone mind. But what they said was the Kings proposed the trade of Brandon Ingram and Lou Williams in their first round draft pick for Demarcus Cousins. The Lakers declined the trade, and the Pelicans are now low-key scared. Did Mitch Kupchak and the Lakers make the right move by declining the trade? What's your thoughts on that, man?
I think Mitch Kupchak did the right thing. I mean, Brandon Ingram, he's still growing, and he's developing into his own self right now. And I believe that was the smart decision that Mitch Kupchak could have done. I think if he would have made that trade, there would have been a lot of Laker fans that would have been aiming for his head at that point in time. But right now, I think that was one of the best moves right now for the Lakers. You go and get what you want, and you don't give away what you need. And you need a Brandon Ingram, someone who can, in the next 2 or 3 years, who I believe is going to be able to average those double-doubles. He reminds me a lot of a Kevin Durant type player. He just has to go into his own, and I think Mitch Kupchak did the right thing by not giving that person away. And honestly, I think that was the best thing that they could have done. Because even though you're getting a Demarcus Cousins, what else are you getting as a scorer? You still need scores on your team. And Brandon Ingram has proven that he can score. So it was the right move.
So I'm glad right now that Brandon Ingram is not leaving LA and have anything to do with Demarcus Cousins' trade value at all, period. Also with Lou Williams, I'm glad that Lou Williams is, as of right now, I'm not going to say that, something don't happen by the end of today with Lou Williams, because Lou Williams is big on everybody's radar list right now as far as being traded. But when I'm going through this New Orleans roster, man, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, they give up Tyreke Evans, right? They give up Buddy Hield and Langston Galloway, right? So you give up a guard, you give up pretty much all your guards, because Langston Galloway is a guard, Buddy Hield's a guard, Tyreke Evans a guard, and you add in another big man. I mean, how is that move with adding Demarcus Cousins going to put New Orleans over the top? Are they going to bring in another, true point guard? Because do they think Drew Holiday could get the job done with these two big men being the point guard?
I believe with Drew Holiday, you still have that time. He did take some time off this earlier in the season because his spouse did have the cancerous tumor taken away from her. So I think that was the best thing that he did do. He came back, and he hasn't shown any flashes of the old Drew Holiday. We're still waiting for that. But I mean, if New Orleans feels comfortable with what they're doing, then by all means do it. But I think that you could still put some key little pieces around there. I'm not saying they have to be superstar potential, but I think you start from the bottom, and I think that's what they did last night. You get rid of the players who you don't believe you need anymore for that rebuild. But I mean, they're still a winner in my eyes. I mean, I'm not giving them an A+. I say it's a B- for the move because you still have to make those other moves. So now with that move, you have to make another one. You have to. I mean, there's no other choice but for New Orleans to keep going up.
Because right now, New Orleans if the playoffs started today, New Orleans is not in the playoffs.
And that's what I'm saying. You still need that key piece. Whether it be through point guard or getting another scorer out on the perimeter, you don't have to necessarily go for a starter, but somebody off of your bench, maybe whatever feels comfortable for you. But right now, I believe that you do have to go bring in another key piece, for them to continue whatever road they're trying to go down.
Right, so, hey, you guys, if you just now tuning in, Demarcus Cousins have just been traded earlier on last night. Things will be confirmed today as far as the paperwork, since the league has opened back up today. The trade for Demarcus Cousins has been confirmed with him going to New Orleans. And we want to go ahead and kind of move away from Demarcus Cousins right now since his deal is already done. And we're going to talk about that man that's in Chicago, Mr. Jimmy Butler. What's going to happen with Jimmy Butler, man? Is he really going to go to Boston? Because I'm sitting here trying to look at Boston's roster, and I'm like, okay, you bring in Jimmy Butler, like, who are you going to let go? Marcus Smart? I mean,
I don't.
Are they going to go trade up guard for guard? They're going to let go Marcus Smart and bring in Jimmy Butler? Or do you keep Marcus Smart and then you let go somebody like Terry Rozier I don't know who would be all tossed up in that trade. I mean, if I'm thinking you don't let nobody like Avery Bradley go, right? Or Demetrius Jackson.
That's actually what I was going to say. I think that he should. I mean, if you are going to make that trade, I think if you're going to be Chicago, I mean, Marcus Smart's not your future. And I think if you are going to try to build something, you already have a guard and Dwayne Wade. So, I mean, you can go somewhere else with that move. You really can, but I think that the best move for you at this time would be to keep Jimmy Butler, because you're really not getting any key pieces back from Boston unless they're draft picks, and you're trying to rebuild from the beginning. And I know Dwayne Wade, in his situation, coming home to play with 1 year left on his contract, I don't think being at the bottom of the tank right now is something that he would prefer.
I mean, because in Chicago, Jimmy Butler, he plays forward, right?
He does play forward.
So if he's going to go to Boston, if they're talking about if Boston is in trade talks with Chicago and you trying to bring in another forward, I mean, who are they going to let go in order to bring in Jimmy Butler is what I'm trying to. I mean, because who they got? Amir Johnson, Jordan Mickey. I mean, like, who else? Jonas Jerebko. I mean, who do Boston have? Jay Crowder. You don't get rid of Jay Crowder. If you're Boston, that's one move that you don't do is get rid of Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder's proven himself in the last 2 or 3 years here in this league. So I don't think he would get away with him.
I mean, because he's a young proven talent, though. Jay Crowder showed up in the playoffs when Boston made it to the playoffs last year. Jay Crowder was standing out on the screen to me, so it's like, why would you get rid of a young key piece and you bring in another forward who is pretty much I wouldn't necessarily say a ball hog, but is Jimmy Butler more of a team player than, I mean, will he help the chemistry in Boston? Or I mean, I really don't understand why Boston would even want to make a move to bring in Jimmy Butler to help them out. I mean, is Jimmy Butler gonna help them, is take them over the top? Because honestly, I feel as though like they need to go big. They should have been thinking about bringing in a Boogie Cousins. If you ask me, if I was Boston, because look at what Boogie Cousins went for. This man went for Tyreek Evans, Langston Galloway, right, and Buddy Hield. Why Boston couldn't make a move and get rid of some of the pieces that they have, and you bring in a Demarcus Cousins? You bring in a big man for Isaiah Thomas. But you think that move with Jimmy Butler is going to make Isaiah Thomas even better? I mean, I don't think that's going to elevate his game.
I feel as if Boston was going to make a move, it was the Boogie Cousins, move. But I believe that with that already happening and transpiring, I think that now that Boston has to look other ways. And I mean, if Jimmy Butler was something that you did, I think that Boogie actually opened the doors for a lot of these teams now to say, well, let's go ahead and make these moves that we can make. I think it was a forefront for what he did. But at the same time, you have to build around the pieces that you need. And I think Boston needs a big man. And like you just said, I don't think the pieces that a Jimmy Butler would really do anything to evaluate the game of the Boston Celtics. They're already a 3 seed right now at the playoffs started, which is, to me, good positioning in the East at that. So, I mean, you continue to build, but you build in the right format, and I think that them holding off and anything, waiting for the summertime to see who's available, would be their best move.
So how do you feel about like Chicago? When you take a look at Chicago's roster, right? If Jimmy Butler was to leave Chicago, like who do you think Chicago would potentially move in that trade with Jimmy Butler? And who do you see?
If Chicago was to make a move and with someone going along with him, it would be a Taj Gibson. It's not Nikola Merrifield. He is somebody else who they're trying to unleash, or Doug McDermott. I mean, these guys have been mentioned with Jimmy Butler in exchange in the past. So why not, build from there? I mean, I think that would be a great forefront for those players to go ahead and move along. Their names have been mentioned with Jimmy Butler going anywhere that might be in a potential trade talk. But you also have to think that who's going to be able to take on that contract of a Jimmy Butler? Those other guys have 1 year left on their contract. Jimmy Butler has a 3-year contract worth $56 million. So are you going to be able to extend that or make room for that? Who are you going to give away to make the right moves for it? Because with that kind of contract, is Boston even ready to consider moving someone with that contract? So, I mean, it's all up to Boston. They have a lot of cap space. They have a lot of players who have 1 year left on their contract. So, I mean, you build around, like I said, you build around what you need and not what you want at this point in time.
So, man, I mean, right now I'm really looking forward to some of the other moves that's going to be taking place right now in the NBA, since we're getting closer to the trade deadline, and we've seen now the first biggest trade with Demarcus Cousins being moved to New Orleans. What about that guy that's in New York, man? That Carmelo Anthony. Do you think Carmelo Anthony's going to stay in New York, or do you feel as though, and they do you think Carmelo Anthony's going to stay in New York and finish out his career in New York and just suck it up and just get paid, or do you think he's going to end up somewhere like, a potential Cleveland maybe, or maybe another team who he could help win with in the playoffs?
There's one thing I've learned with basketball: time is of the essence. It's something that you can't sit around. It's not, basketball is not football where you can build around, baseball where you can sit there and build around. Basketball is one of those things that if something's not working, they're going to keep trying to rebuild it. We've seen that with the Philadelphia 76ers over the years, how they just continue to rebuild. Every year is a new rebuild. There's something new going on. But I think that with Carmelo's situation, you finish out his contract. I really do believe if you do anything, you do it during the offseason. It's caused too much distractions Mike Dolan has caused a lot of chaos. The whole Charles Oakley on national TV, that all that stuff, it goes into play with a player. And I think he just finishes out this year. Get out of New York, finish out this year, and then try to see what you're worth with the trade on the offseason. Right now, if you can get out, I believe the best Clippers. The Clippers do have that space. They can move pieces around. They have players on the bench who can move to New York. They have that we can switch state factor with them. Whereas Cleveland does as well, but Cleveland doesn't want to give away a key piece. Cleveland has to give away a Kevin Love type player just to get a Carmelo, regardless of what goes on. There's no way of fixing that contract or that structure. Luxury tax is something new to a lot of these teams. So
as of right
why
now,
do you carry that burden?
As of right now, I don't believe that Kevin Love trade could even happen with Kevin Love being injured right now.
It can't go through. It can't go through. But who would say? I mean, he's only 6 to 8 weeks on the injured list. So Cleveland is already out of play with it. But the Clippers aren't. And with Blake Griffin coming back, Blake Griffin was in trade talks as well. Heard his name being mentioned in Boston and Oklahoma City. Is he someone that they would lose or willingly lose to that position? There's too much space being taken up in Los Angeles with Blake Griffin and with DeAndre Jordan. So would you really take that chance on getting rid of a Blake Griffin type of player, sending him to New York to get a Carmelo factor? I mean, if I'm the GM, I'm looking at it, I'm going to make that move because now I have a way of spreading my floor. I have a lot of floor spacing. So why not?
I was hearing Austin Rivers being a part of a trade with the Clippers leaving and Austin Rivers potentially maybe going to a Boston Celtics squad like that. That's what I've been hearing, but not so sure if it's going to happen or not. So with this Carmelo Anthony situation,
that would be a good trade for me. I mean, Austin Rivers is a great point guard too. He's proven that since Chris Paul's been injured. So I mean,
and he's trying to step up. I mean, Austin Rivers, he's not going to wow us, with anything that's going to be like, wow. He's not Chris Paul, but, like you said, I think with him being a young player and getting this opportunity, like, this is big for him, for Austin Rivers, And so, if Austin Rivers does be a part of any kind of trade whatsoever, do you think Doc Rivers is going to allow that to happen? And allow his son to leave? Because Doc Rivers, doesn't he control pretty much, everything that takes place in Los Angeles as far as his players is concerned?
He is the GM. He is the GM for them. Not the GM, I'm sorry, but he is also player director of their team. So at the end of the day, it's a business. And I'm pretty sure if I was in that situation and my son was playing in a situation, I could get a better player for him. I love my son, but hey, man, like, this is something that I have to do. It's a business structure. And I understand Doc Rivers will explain that to his son. Everybody wants a chance to play for their father and all this, that, and the third. But I think it's best that if that situation were to present itself, that Austin Rivers will understand. And you already know what kind of player he is. I think he's already mature enough to go ahead and step forward and go ahead and do what he needs to do.
So with that being said, you and I both think Melo's going to stay in New York, right?
I believe that he's going to be in New York.
Oh, okay, cool. So at least we're on the same page when it comes to Melo. I really don't think anything is going to happen with him because of right now, Cleveland doesn't have the pieces in order to make a trade for Carmelo Anthony. I feel as though no other team that's out there that I feel as though could bring in a Carmelo Anthony right now, and it has to be somewhere where Carmelo wants to go. I don't see any other teams right now that could benefit with having Carmelo on their roster. Well, I can see a lot of teams that could benefit. Let me change that. A lot of teams that could benefit from having Melo on their roster, but I feel as though Melo, he really wants to win now, but I don't think the pieces can be moved around in Cleveland for him to go to Cleveland, but it remains to be seen with him. But there is one thing I wanted to talk about. We got about 2 minutes left. Did you check out the All-Star game last night? Did you see Russell Westbrook catching the alley-oop from Kevin Durant, man?
I think that was a great play. The interview that he gave after that happened was awesome. Kevin Durant was asked, we saw you do a nice little alley-oop. He said his guy can jump high. You saw the celebration on the bench for the West All Stars.
And that was my thing. The celebration. That was why. And I posted that. I posted that on Instagram, and I was like, man, that is one of the reasons why we love this game, because everybody in the media and everybody else, they so big on their relationship, Kevin Durant and Russell, they hate each other, this, that, and the third. Do you think they were fooling us, man? Do you think they really they just put on a little show, and then when it came to All Star, when they knew they was gonna be back on the court together, that they was just like, you know what, it don't even this we both went our separate ways, man. Let's squash this beef or whatever.
I don't think it was much of a beef. I think that it's a level of competition. Sometimes you get mad. Yeah, the way Kevin handled that situation. Yeah, you don't have to own up anything to anybody. You don't owe anybody anything. But at the same time, this is the guy that you played with for years. Someone who grew a nice relationship with you, and you guys built something. And I think the way that he left kind of left Russell Westbrook in a bad place. I don't think Russell was, in appreciation of how he left.
Right.
And text message wouldn't be a great thing to do. No one breaks up with their girlfriend over a text message. So, it's kind of crazy, but I think there's a level of competition. I think these guys still have respect for each other. I just think that it's a level of competition between them two, because now Russell gets what he's always wanted, his own team, and Kevin gets a chance to do what he wanted to not do.
Right. So, okay. Well, there you have it, you guys. We just gonna sit back and watch and see what else happens and takes place, man. Like I said, this is Jeremy Sports Network, man. I appreciate my boy Marty coming on the line, and we talking about these moves that are gonna happen and take place right now in the NBA. But man, this is gonna be interesting heading into the second part of the season in the NBA, because right now everybody's chasing after Cleveland, everybody's chasing after Golden State. And we both feel as though Cleveland is going to make it to the finals, and Golden State is going to make it to the finals, and we're going to get a repeat. With this time, I think Golden State going to come out on top. But there's another team that I feel as though if they make another move and get a key piece, I believe that they can overtake Cleveland, and that's the Washington Wizards, man. I believe the Washington Wizards, if they make a big move as far as let's say upgrading a bench maybe, do you feel as though, or bringing in another good player, do you feel as though hey, Washington can take over Cleveland?
I think if you can find someone who can replace Otto Porter in the starting lineup, and a Trevor Ariza type player, you might laugh, you might think it's funny, but if you take someone who can give you that, what Trevor Ariza gave to Kobe Bryant, what Trevor Ariza is giving to James Harden, what Trevor Ariza gave to the Orlando Magic on their playoff run to the finals, I think you found a key piece. I think that's what you need, a little bit of experience in the starting lineup, and I think he can bring it to you.
There you have it, man. It's Jeremy Sports Network. I'm signing out.